you have a bunch of different size rings, and you're combining them together. This is really complex. I would not wish this on my worst enemy. This would be a pain to actually make, but it looks pretty cool. So all the stuff I usually use is the same ring size. In that case, it's all the same, like 5mm ring that's sterling silver. So it wasn't that hard to actually make that, but it is interesting because you get people who make really, really weird stuff and will spend lots of time making entire suits of chainmail. I actually would do copper for the longest time because I could get copper. But you take a dowel like 6 feet long, and I would take a piece of Romex from like wiring a house. I would put the Romex in the vise, and then I would walk outside of my shop for like 20 feet holding a box cutter and the wire to strip the insulation off the wire. And then I would take it, and on my way back, I would roll this wire in a coil all the way around the dowel. And then you sit on the couch with bolt cutters, cutting a seam across this tube of wires you have. And so you effectively get a bunch of split rings because you cut the dowel wire. So it's pretty fun, and it's really low tech. Jewelry's a little bit harder because you don't want to actually snag anything. But for overall chainmail, it's pretty fun. So this is actually my dad's knife. This is an ongoing project on my part. The Armory stuff he got at some yard sale, but everything else here I've made. I took and I made these crossbow bolts are things that I made. I also made this sword. This sword is like it's about yay tall. And I took and I made it out of a piece of welding stock that I found lying around. And then I ended up sanding it down, and I polished it, and I sharpened it so it's pretty sharp. And I have to, every time I go visit him, oil it because of the rust. So, and then the top cross brace is actually rebar that I found on a construction site. So I took and made this thing out of rebar. And then, like you asked, the handle is 2 pieces of mahogany that I took and carved into half-moon shapes, and I clamp it on the side of the sword. And then I wrap it in leather, and I wrap it in wire, and then I finish it off with a piece of, turns out I had lead in it. I did not know that. Some bronzes have lead in it, which is really weird, because lead is not normally bronze. Bronze is normally copper and tin. But yeah, this was a really, really heavy, like, bar of, or cylinder of brass that I had lying around, that I ended up drilling through, and I used that as a pommel. So it's pretty fun, and I enjoyed it. The hard part is always like smashing things together again, because I didn't use any glue. I rarely use any glue in actual knives, because you shouldn't have to. You should be able to sandwich everything together with a tight enough fit, and then smash the end of it to keen over the last bit of the sword tang, like in that first knife. The skinny part's called the tang. So once you stack the entire handle on it, you wrap it together, you kind of smash the end of the knife, and you like mushroom it out a little bit so it actually holds it all together. And then this shield I actually made. That's a piece of plywood that I took and I ended up carving. This thing right here is a set of candlesticks I got at a Goodwill that I lopped the top off of. So it's 2 candlestick faces that I smashed on top of each other. And then I ended up using bolts and leather strap on the back so that you can actually hold it with your arm. So it's pretty heavy, and I would not go into battle with it, but it was a pretty fun project. And then, yeah, beyond that, the actual knife is up there. So that is now hanging in my dad's study, which is pretty fun. So beyond that, I also do a bunch of other medieval type things. This is called fletching. Fletching is when you take and you add fletching to the end of arrows. So it's actually interesting because, again, we still kind of do this today, not nearly as like decorative as this is. Oftentimes it's just glued together. But I learned this when I wanted to make spears when I was like 6 or 7. So I took and I just used a bunch of magnolia leaves, and I would take and I would cut the magnolia leaf into a feather in good shape, and then I would use twine to attach it to a spear. But beyond that, I ended up moving on, and this is actually feathers, and these are arrows that I made. So I made this set of arrows for my dad to hang on his wall. And then this is my Robin Hood hat that I left at home because I have no need of a Robin Hood hat at school. But so yeah, that's actually a placemat that I found at my mother's table. So I asked her if she needed an actual placemat. She said no. So I took the placemat and I cut it in half, and then I sewed it in a bunch of wire, and then I went from there. So I'm very resourceful. There's me holding the hat. It's pretty fun, but it is a placemat. You can probably tell if you like stared at it and I told you it was a placemat. But other than that, it's Robin Hood. So, and I made this little feather thing because it was fun, and they had a sale at Macy's, or not Macy's, at Michael's for feathers. So that's another thing I did. And I also do leatherworking. So this is my quiver. I do shoot bows and arrows quite a bit, and I made a quiver because I enjoyed it. So this is a piece of leather about eBay that I took and I made a, I don't know if you can see it from here. I made a Celtic knot design in it. So I took and I carved, that's a really bad, hard to see thing, but this thing here is a Celtic knot that I had. And then I folded it over and sewed it at the top. And then this is a woven piece of leather that I used to use as a shoulder strap. So overall, I use that quite a lot, and then my dad just keeps it on the wall because, oops. My dad keeps it on the wall because I would need it here, and I'd probably get arrested. But, that's it. And then this is the last thing I kind of want to highlight. This is a bulb that I made my dad, again, because I was bored. I spent about 2 months taking and on my bed frame, learning to plate. So I don't think this is actually what you use to braid hair, but plating is still what they call that, so it's a weird skill, I guess. But you take and you use a bunch of different leather straps around a center core, and you're able to kind of with a rope weave all of these all the way around it. So I ended up making that full whip, and it's only about like, I guess 8 feet long. So that was, I don't know, it's not very long for a bull whip, but it was enough to prove the point that we could make a bull whip. So I enjoyed that. And then at the very end, you have this little snapper, which is what actually goes past the speed section. So, yep. And then I guess I wanted to show you a couple videos of actual forging if you're interested. I don't know, do you have any interesting like questions or any specific things you'd like me to show you? I can show you how to build any of those things, but there's so many videos out there and so many things I can show you that I don't necessarily know what you're interested in. So, what about
I actually have a question.
Sure.
Molding processes.
Okay.
Can you do things like equivalent to blow molding and injection molding with just board, or is it only lost wax?
So injection molding is difficult because you need the pressure to be able to do the injection. So I'm going to say no. That's really hard to do without an actual injection molding machine. What I have done in the past is I made a bow and arrow, and I did take and I used fiberglass and I used a negative mold that I had cut. So you can lay fiberglass on it and then do that. Overall, there's not many other things you would do besides lost wax molding at a forge because just plastic would get everywhere and it would not work out well. But I guess it's kind of a similar process if you think about it, because you are making a negative and then you're throwing some material on it until it ends up working. I think a kayak is a good example of that. All kayaks nowadays are actually plastic injection molded because you just take and you make a really nice polished metal frame and then you pump in a bunch of hot plastic and then boom, you have a kayak. They crack it out of the mold and it works pretty well. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of sad that lost wax is the only thing you do, but really that's the only thing you do. But it works pretty well. It's worked for 1,000 years. So. Any other questions? Yes?
What's the thing that you built that you actually use the most? Like, or it's not you, maybe your dad, your mom, whatever. What is it that you have built that is used the most and it's actually utility?
Okay, so there are a lot of answers. I guess I've made a pizza board that my mother uses a lot. That's not really blacksmithing. I use a lot of my leatherworking stuff. I did bring a few examples of leatherworking. So like I've used my wallet that I think a lot of you have seen before, made of stingray leather, I think. So I use that a lot. So I guess I use a lot of leatherworking things quite often, but I don't necessarily like carry around all the knives that I make. My actual boot knife that I do carry is this thing. So it's effectively just a file that I sharpen. So I do carry this thing around, just because it's nice to have. So I carry a lot of the stuff I make. If I were to say like other people, what other people use of things I've made, I made purses for my mother that she uses a lot. I don't know, a lot of my stuff hangs up. think about that and I'll get back to you if I think of anything else. But I don't know, I make a lot of stuff and a lot of it has really weird uses. Any other questions? What?
When I had the knife, I noticed it had an interesting smell. Is that just the smell of the metal you use on the blade?
That one might have been blue, I'm not sure. I think that's blue. So I took and I actually used ferric chloride, I think, and you rub that over the knife blade, and it actually kind of rusts it, so it would smell a little bit rusty. That's a way to keep it from corroding, which is something you have to do because that's actually a file. So because it's a file, it's not stainless, and because it's not stainless, you would have to oil it unless you did glue it. I don't want to oil something that I'm going to put in my food, so it's therefore blue. But
What about the knife blade?
no, so the knife blade is blue.
So you're talking about pulling a vacuum on your furnace, or when do you pull vacuum again?
So when you want to pour something, or when you want to smelt something, you take and you actually, you have to have, not a vacuum, it's more like no oxygen. So actually, it's similar to welding. When you weld, oftentimes you'll actually have like a bubble of argon gas around whatever you're doing, because you don't want to immediately rust whatever you're touching. So effectively, you are fast corroding stuff if you don't use argon. So in this case, I would use dish soap because it makes the same type of thing, and you're able to kind of keep all of the air away from what you're actually working on, so it doesn't corrode. The worst feeling ever, I had about $50 worth of silver, which to 9-year-old me is like amazing. And I cut it all up into little chunks and I was smelting it. And effectively the whole thing turned yellow and then just wasn't silver anymore because it rusted. So I really couldn't afford for that afterwards. And it was really kind of sad because then you have to fire for a whole other time just to empty all of your tools and empty your little crucible with all the silver that you just burned effectively away. So really, really annoying, but overall, it happens sometimes. So I think I'll show you lost wax testing. Anyone else have any questions? So let's see if we can find a good example. That seems to have chosen. Okay. Anyway. Cool. So this will give you a good idea of how lost wax casting works. I assume you So this guy's using silicone instead of wax. So he has made a mold out of it. Now he's going to cut around it. So effectively he's done what I have done with plastic parrots. So now he has a negative mold that he's going to take and he puts the wax in it. So this is a cheap way of not having to carve wax yourself. And then he gets a negative of whatever it is he's trying to make. And now he's going to take it, he's going to put on a screw. So he's now lining all of those different things with the different things he's trying to smelt. And this is kind of like the thing with the gold screw that I showed you earlier in the video. So in one shot, he's going to make all of these different rings. And like I said, I use a aluminum can to make sure it doesn't explode on me. He's actually using that crucible. And then he fills it with plaster Paris. And then he's going to open that up, throw it in the kiln, upside down. In this case, my mother's oven. And then you wait a little while, all the wax burns out of the casting, leaving the negative of when you had wax in it. And then he takes that out, and then he flips it upside down again, and then he pours in the hot metal. And then all the different things with the screws are filled in. So this is the hot metal he's pouring. I don't get to do that. I do that before, so it's a painful and time-consuming process. And then he sponged it, and then boom, that's silver. I'm not that good at all. I can do one of those rings at a time, maybe. And then you polish them off, you cut off all the screws and stuff, and then you kind of recycle the leftovers. So he just did like 60 pieces at a time, because it professional. I'm not. So overall, this is far more efficient than what I can actually do. But it's a similar process. So. And then one. Let's see. No, I think I'll give you a quick example of some of the tools story. So this is probably really like editorialized, but so this guy is also going to cheat. He's not going to use a hand hammer. He's going to use a press. So this is the belt sander. Again, bigger than the belt sander at home. I use one that's about 1 inch wide. What he's going to do is actually make Damascus steel. So this is the type of steel where you layer a bunch of different types of steels on top of each other. And then almost like when you etch it, the harder steels will etch less than the softer steels. And you'll end up with a weird pattern in the steel. So he's going to take all these together, he's going to wrap it with wire, he's going to end up welding them together, and then at the end of it, he's going to end up with a billet of all those different steels. And this is cheating. He's using a power hammer. It's not actually hammering it. In the good old days, you had to use a sledgehammer, and you'd be at this for hours. This would take you like a couple of days to be able to draw that all the way down to the side. Once he gets it narrower and narrower and narrower, he's going to end up with a smaller billet. And again, he's using a forge. It's way nicer than mine, and a hammer way nicer than mine. And this guy's drawing it out really fast. And then once he's done with that, it's going to start to look more and more like a bar. So this is, again, actually a bunch of layers of steel that he's taken and smashed together and welded together. And then he's slowly making a bar that actually starts to look like a sword. At the end of that, he's going to end up with a really small piece. And he's actually probably going to twist it. So again, if you think about if you have like a layered pancake of metal and then you twist it, it's now going to look like a spiral. But he's going to hammer that square. So what he's now doing is assembling the final like billet that he's going to make. And if you see, he's actually spiraling this right now by hand. So it's kind of making a spiral over here. And then when he hammers that, it's going to turn into a really weird pattern. So he does that all the way down. Now he's doing some other weird funky stuff. He's actually cutting out sections of this. So you think, again, this is a bunch of layered stuff. And then he's going to cut each of these little notches out by bandsaw. And he's going to end up with like a sawtooth looking thing. And at the end of this process, he's going to take and he's going to hammer that flat. So hey, he's done actually bandsawing that, and then he's hammering the sawtooth thing flat. And again, that's going to cause it to like shift and have a bunch of waves in it. So that's a really fancy way of making. Like I've never really had to do that. There's not really a benefit to it. In the good old days, you would do this because you didn't know how high quality the steel group would be. So you would take and you would layer good steel with bad steel because overall it would make it more homogeneous steel than just guessing at what you're trying to push together. So right now, if you can see, he has a bunch of the waves in it because he smashed it together. Now he's going to put high carbon steel on either end of the blade, and then he's going to kind of weld that billet together just like yep. And then he's going to take and stick that entire billet in the forge, rinse, repeat. So right now, the inner steel that was the mild steel and the harder steel that was kind of smashed together in that waveform, that Damascus steel, is now going to be encased in like a harder shell of like polytool steel. So that's going to keep the edge actually able to be sharpened. So that'll be more like a kitchen blade, kitchen knife type steel. In the middle will be more like rebar. So the actually cool thing about that is people figured out in the Middle Ages that you could take, and if you put cheap steel in the middle of the blade, when you smash it against some other guy's sword, the like rebar and fake really bad metal in the middle would actually deflect and keep the overall blade from shattering. Because oftentimes, like that knife, if I tempered that knife with a sharper's holes with a file, that would actually break. That's what happened in the case of my Moe's windshield. It was a very tempered file,